For
Amen.
God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, hath shined in our hearts, to give the light of knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. 2 Corinthians 4:6 of the New Testament. It's also a coded reference you can find on rifles the U.S. military uses. There are other coded references as well on the sights of rifles used by the U.S. military. The company that makes the sights says there's nothing wrong with that. Military rules specifically prohibit promoting any religion. Some are upset. Others don't find anything wrong with it. David, what do you think?
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's highly ridiculous, especially in light of the fact that one of the wars we're fighting right now in Afghanistan has a very strong religious overtone to it. I mean, these are people who have launched a jihad or a holy war against us, and that's based on a religious issue. It's based on, well, loosely based on the religion of Islam, which admittedly has been perverted. But the whole point is that it's a religious-based war, and we're just going to fuel the fires. Imagine if one of those rifles falls into the wrong hands, and I'm sure it's happened, and they see that. It just fuels the fire that we think our religion is right and theirs is wrong. And I think it's a bad idea. And high separation of church and state, I mean, what is it doing on there to begin with?
What do you think, Matt?
I think this has much to do about nothing. If we're going to get rid of this, well, then let's abolish military chaplains. On bases, there are churches. We have officers who are priests and ministers and imams who minister on the government's dime to the spiritual needs of our soldiers. Let's go all the way.
Matt, is it safe to say there's a difference between chaplains and verses on the guns?
No. What does it matter if there's verses on the guns? We have chaplains in Afghanistan. Is that going to inflame the populace? I mean, are they going to hate, or is Al-Qaeda and the Taliban going to hate us less if we don't have these Bible verses stamped on the sides of the guns? Are we going to earn brownie points with Osama bin Laden if we cut this contractors loose? But you know what, Matt,
what's your argument for keeping them, though? What's your argument for keeping them? I mean, you're saying it's an argument about nothing, but what is the argument to keep them on there then? I don't get it.
Does the equipment work or not? That should be the point here. Whether this verse is on the side is a silly argument manufactured by rabid anti-religious activists who take separation of church and state so far beyond the meaning of the founding fathers. There's not even a relationship.
David,
I just want the rifles to work and for the Bible verses to be off of them. How about that?
Well, the rifles do work, and there's no point in having the verses off if they do work.
But there's no point in having them on either.
All right. Well, we agree to disagree. Okay. This is the time of year when people try to get enough signatures to get a proposition on the state ballot. If this makes the state ballot, how are you going to vote, all right? Let parents decide what's best for kids in schools. Now, this would allow parents to set the curriculum for students. It would prohibit public schools from establishing class systems, instead giving that power to the parents. We're already letting corporations and outside entities take over at some schools. Matt, what do you think? Should parents be in charge of what our kids learn in schools?
Well, I think as a matter of nature, I think the parents are the primary educators of their children and ought to be in charge. Theoretically, we're in charge by electing our school boards and setting curriculum. I mean, I looked at the initiative, and I'm not quite sure what the impact is on the public school system. Does it abolish curriculum and turn it into a homeschooling system, or does every parent have to design the curriculum for their child in that classroom? I'm not quite sure what the ramifications of this would be, but I think in principle I agree.
What I think is the parents get together and they say, you know what, too much PE, not enough science. PE out, science in. I think that's what they're talking about. The parents just decide everything at the school. And I have to tell you something, I think that's very dangerous. David, what do you think?
I agree. I don't want, how many people have met some parents that you just think are bat poop crazy? Do you want those people deciding in committee what your children are going to learn? I don't. I just think, we already have a system like this. If you don't like what your kids are learning, you can homeschool them. I don't want some committee deciding what my kids are going to learn. I want to leave that to the professionals who are licensed and educated themselves. And, Matt said it best himself. I mean, we already kind of have that. We have the school board and parents already have a say. So why tinker with a system that, while it may be flawed, I don't think this solution is a good one at all.
Yeah, you know what, and I agree. The system is definitely flawed, and I think something needs to be done. But, Matt, I just have to tell you something. I'd be very afraid to let Mary Jones decide what my son is going to do, because Mary's kid really likes math, and my kid's better at science. We're going to do more math because Mary's decided that's what we're going to do. I mean, do you see where that could cause problems?
I see, but I have a hard time believing the parents in control of curriculum could do worse than the teacher union system we have now. I mean, we spend billions of dollars for mediocrity and worse. So I really have a hard time believing the parents of California who want their children to have good educations could possibly do a worse job than the so-called professionals who are running the system now.
All right, Matt and David, way to stay dry, way to come on. Well done. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.